What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Mile High Hockey. Mike Evans, Will Peterson with you as always. And Mike, just when you think the Avalanche are starting to roll, they go to Chicago. The lowly Blackhawks lose 3-1. They outshoot the Blackhawks by 16 shots last night. But for whatever reason, after they took a 1-0 lead, things slowed down, and you kept thinking, they'll be fine, they'll be fine. For whatever reason, they weren't. Your biggest takeaways from another disappointing loss in Chicago, kind of a theme over the last few seasons.
Yeah, my two takeaways this. One, Chicago they clearly get up for playing the Avalanche at home, and they give the Avs a good test. The other part of this is I'm not too bothered by it. The Avs had points in 8 straight games. Yep. I think just sometimes over the course of an 82-game schedule, the schedule's going to get you. You're just going to lose a game that you shouldn't lose, and this is probably one of them. I think the fact that you have some other mitigating factors that came into play. You had Trent Miner making his first NHL start, so naturally that's going to be a little bit different. You also know you're playing a back-to-back game. You're going to be playing Minnesota, as we're talking right here tonight. So maybe there's sort of maybe it's just a little loss of focus. You've been playing really good hockey for a while. You got a rookie in between the pipes, and you're playing Minnesota the next night. So maybe you kind of put all that together. It explains a loss that you maybe didn't see coming.
All right, I can get with you a little bit, but if they had lost 6-1, then sure, I'd buy it up to, hey, Trent Miner, no disrespect to him, but this feels like a Georgiev game, an Oninen game. Trent Miner wasn't the problem last night. He only gave up 3 goals. The Avalanche just couldn't find the back of the net. Those are the kind of games, Mike, that if you're chasing a Central Division crown and you're a point or two back, you're going to remember losing to the Blackhawks. I can't dismiss it as a whole lot of nothing when you score 1 goal against a goalie who hadn't won since November.
Yeah, and they are right now in a little bit of a lull offensively, right? You go back even to that scintillating win over the Buffalo Sabres. It took a little while for them to get going, and then they follow that up with only 1 goal in the shootout loss to Montreal. They get 3 in the win over Florida, and then they're back to just the 1 goal in this game. So the offense is in a little bit of a lull, which, okay, time to cue it up again. What's the Avs record with Val Nichushkin, and what's the Avs record without?
Well, and remember, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's about 500 with him.
With him and almost 60,
or without him.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And 68% win percentage with him. It's crazy.
And I'm glad you went there because Jared Bednar had said they were going to take Val Nichushkin on this road trip. He spotted at Family Sports Center earlier this week before they get on the plane to Chicago, and then Bednar hits the podium and says, change of plans. No Val Nichushkin on the road trip. Remember, he got hurt on New Year's Eve against the Winnipeg Jets. Bednar said day-to-day an estimated 7 to 10 days. Well, now the earliest he can play is January 14th against the New York Rangers. And I'm not saying this is any off-the-ice stuff. I think this is legitimately an injury. Like I said, he was spotted at Family Sports. It's not like we don't have eyes on Val. But just the last 3 times, Mike, that Nichushkin has left, he's never come back. He left in the Seattle series, didn't come back. Last year, the Toronto thing, he never came back. He went to phase 2. And then in Dallas, he left, he never came back. We're just so used to once Nichushkin's gone, he's gone. I think Avalanche fans will take a big, deep breath, sigh of relief if he's out there January 14th against the Rangers when they get home.
Oh, I know I will. Yeah, absolutely. The way you just laid it out, even though everything would indicate that this is just hockey related.
Strictly hockey.
And by no means are we, fanning the flames and fear-mongering here, but the way you laid it out perfectly, you can understand why it's like, the sooner we get him back out on the ice and I see him out there, the better I'm going to feel.
I mean, we have not seen him, return in the last 3 years. Like every other guy, they just leave out of the lineup and then they get better and they come back. With him, it's always been something off the ice that has happened in these absences. And another guy that we have to chat about is Jonathan Drouin. He cannot shake this injury. And Jared Bednar made a comment that said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said, the injury's not going to get worse. Okay, so what is it? And we'll see if he can play and if he can't play, and we need to get to the break and reevaluate. But, man, Jonathan Drouin is very valuable. But, Mike, he has missed way more games than he's played. Didn't play against the Blackhawks last night. I think you excuse 1 goal if they didn't have Drouin, they didn't have Nichushkin, they didn't have 2 top 6 forwards. But that's another one to watch of, A, what do you make of Bednar's comment, it's not going to get worse? Because that sort of caught me off guard. And B, how does this affect the trade deadline if you're not sure you can trust this guy the rest of the way?
Well, and you can't, right? Because that's kind of part of been his MO throughout the course of his career. Nobody denies his talent, but he has battled the injury bug at times. I think there's no doubt that if he's healthy and he's out there and he's with Nathan MacKinnon, he's going to produce, right? But one of the greatest abilities is availability, and with him, you just don't know. To me, when I always kind of wonder, sometimes you listen to a coach and you get those thinly veiled remarks that make me think that they believe the player could be doing a little bit more to come back.
A little bit of a shot at Drouin, perhaps.
Yeah, a little bit.
Baby shot, little pressure.
Baby shot, just a baby shot. But sometimes I get that sense, and there's a little sniff of that right now. Like, hey, it's kind of like the whole. We've seen it with the Broncos and Juwan James and the Nuggets and Jamal Murray. He's been medically cleared to play.
Yeah.
In this case, when you hear, hey, he can't hurt it anymore, well, is that hockey speak for let's go?
Well, yeah, because I'm curious, okay, it's upper body. If it's a shoulder, well, you can hurt your shoulder more if you take a check wrong. If it's a head injury, well, yeah, another concussion. I think you're right. I hate to say Bednar's calling out his toughness, but I do think Bednar's telling him, we re-signed you. We took a chance on you. You were this close to being out of the league. You get to play with Nathan MacKinnon. Maybe have a little more grit. Is that the right word?
Well, but see, that's the problem. See here, and I can see some people probably watching this and you're getting mad. But this is part of the problem with hockey and the culture that surrounds hockey. They're so stubborn
and secretive
when it comes to the injuries that unfortunately, because you do that, it allows too many people like you and I to speculate and try to read between the lines what's really going on.
Yeah, because if it was football and they listed him with a hangnail, we'd all be like, it's a hangnail. Get out there. We don't know what it is. Hey, rivalry game tonight in Minnesota, Mike. Avs and Wild. I feel like with the Wild finally being good again and relevant again, this thing could pick back up. The intensity could pick back up. And, don't look now, potential playoff matchup with how, frankly, stupid the NHL bracket is, that the 2 versus 3 in the Central, Avs and Wild could be reignited, if you will.
Well, are you with me that ever since Avalanche Red Wings petered out, we've been just desperately looking for a rival for
manufacturing
the Avs?
a rival.
Haven't
sure.
We've been hey, Minnesota, or hey, it's Dallas, or hey, it's Vegas, or hey, it's the hockey club now, And I think that there is this natural want and desire to have a real rival out there. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me. All I know is the Avalanche continue to go out there and kick butt, and maybe every other team looks at the Avalanche as their measuring stick. Meanwhile, the Avs are like, hey, is there a team that's going to, really stand up to us? Maybe Chicago. In Chicago is their biggest rival.
Oh, gosh.
But Minnesota played really well at the beginning of the season. They, like Winnipeg, have kind of cooled off a little bit and have allowed the Avalanche back into the pack. And it's amazing how much has changed where the Avalanche – it wasn't that long ago. They were on the outs, even the wild card outs. And we were talking about this team being able to maybe have to scramble to try to get a playoff spot. I'm at the point now where I think Minnesota is just going to be a mere speed bump on the way to catching up to Winnipeg.
Yeah, it looks like the Avalanche have a legitimate shot to win the Central Division, but games in Chicago like last night don't help. I don't know. I think Wild fans are obnoxious. I'll just leave it there on the way out. I think Minnesota Wild fans have never won squat. We've got our 3 cups, and they sometimes think they're toe-to-toe with the Avs.
And so my message for the Avs fans when it comes to the Wild, don't Wild fans, don't take the bait, okay? As far as I'm concerned, the Wild are kind of like that the little kid that you kind of give him a little pat on the head. Hey, aren't you cute? Aren't you cute? Aren't you Wild cute?
You're telling the kid he's cute. I'm telling him to
cute.
Shoo.
All right. Shoo.
We'll wrap up this road trip.
This is the big boy table.
On Tuesday.
Go to the kids' table.
And the Avalanche start another homestand next week. He's Mike Evans. I'm Will Peterson. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Mile High Hockey.